People who don't get stressed during a presentation, school, or work. What's your secret? Experience. I used to get nervous and now I don't. Not sure when or why that happened. Public speaking doesn't bother me if I know the material really well. Know what you're talking about and you'll be fine. Don't be afraid to not know something too. If someone asks you something you don't know, just say so. Honestly, just remembering that most likely no one is paying attention anyway, especially if it's your school. I get so stressed before the presentation that the actual presentation comes as a relief. I used to get super nervous before any sort of public speaking event. Shaky hands, sweating, nausea, the whole 9 yards. Eventually I landed a job as a corporate trainer. I was desperate for a job and $sign, so I just had to get up in a room of 30 plus people every day and present the training material and answer questions. Honestly, I just pretended I didn't care and faked it till I made it. Now, it actually doesn't bother me to speak in front of a group. If this is a challenge that you are facing, maybe look into local public speaking groups such as Toastmasters. I'm vain and I love attention. How I handle boring shit, that's where the neuroses are. Preparation. I know that may sound like a cheap answer, but that is honestly my best hedge against anxiety. Edit. Thanks for them gold and silver coins. I don't remember the people that bombed presentations, because those aren't formative memories. No matter how much I bomb this presentation, no one will remember in a month, especially since they are stressed about their own presentation. How you prepare is key. Don't write a word-for-word speech. Develop your presentation in the form of questions that you can answer. That way, when you get off of your plan, or have a question pop up that you didn't explicitly plan for, you're already in the mindset of solving a problem, rather than reciting a speech. It allows you to pivot and improvise much more effectively. Be dead inside. For something that I haven't seen posted yet, know what you have to say is important. Tell yourself that you know what you are doing, and that other people need to hear what you have to say. I've attended several research conferences. I notice the boomer-aged presenters just DGAF and read directly from cards without looking up once. If it helps, it doesn't really matter if you are a subject matter expert with several dozen peer-reviewed papers or a student. I think most people get nervous speaking in front of crowds. Just remind yourself that it's okay. It can help if you recognize those physical symptoms, tight chest, sweaty hands, or whatever it is for you, not as something is wrong, but rather your body preparing you for something important. Your stress response isn't too scary if you know it's there to help you be a badass if something scary shows up. I thought I was scared of public speaking until I had to do this one assignment. As a generally quiet guy, I thought getting up in front of people and saying stuff was the last thing I'd want to do. However, a switch flipped in my brain at the perfect moment. Just before beginning, I realized that everyone *had* to shut up and listen to me and let me explain all those many thoughts that rattle around in my brain. Think of it as an opportunity to get something off your chest. You don't owe the audience anything. They're getting something from your cathartic rant. That's my secret. I'm always stressed. I remind myself that everyone in the audience is rooting for me. Nobody wants me to bomb, they're all on my side. The worst that'll happen is that people won't be paying attention, and people who aren't paying attention are easy to talk at without getting stressed out. Couple of things that worked really well for me: dressing up. At least personally, when I throw on a suit and tie, I feel unstoppable. Knowing that I at least look nice can take the edge off the fear of not doing well. If you can, try to memorize, or at least be very familiar with the first paragraph or so of your speech. Maybe you don't have time to prep for the whole thing, but if you can start off strong, you'll feel a lot more comfortable for the rest of the speech. Plus you'll have made a good impression on the crowd already. Note cards help. Take some time and watch some TED Talks on YouTube. Find somebody whose presenting style you vibe with, then try to model your style after them. Don't be afraid to admit if you don't know something. If your presentation has a Q/A and you get asked a difficult question, it's way better to just say I'll look into this and get back to you with an answer than to just flounder and try to BS something. Hope this helps. I just say, fuck it. What happens happens. It helps that I have enough self-confidence to either do well in something or make up for it later. The make up for it later part is key, because you can be a bumbling idiot and still ask, what do I need to do to make up for this? And then do it as they told you to do it. Edit. I missed the key word, presentations, but my point stands, because as someone else said, people are only worried about messing up their own presentation. They won yet and can yet remember yours within a couple weeks. Double shot of whiskey really helped me during show and tell in 4th grade. Just inflate your ego. Think the listeners are stupid and won't notice any mistakes. Sounds rude, but works. Stop giving a fuck. Beta blockers. I did bad stand-up comedy at writing camp when I was 15. Everything pales in comparison to that. I've had a stutter since 3rd grade. At this point in my life, age 26, public speaking is really no big deal for me. I think it's a combination of some pretty intense speech therapy, involving starting up conversations with strangers in the Boston Common, and already living out some of the worst case scenarios of speaking in front of a crowd. I just pick one person in the audience to speak to. I pretend that person asked me to explain whatever I'm talking about. It usually helps if the person is already a friend or someone I find attractive. I find it easy to talk confidently about a particular subject to a friend. If I choose an attractive audience member, I speak like I'm on a date. I enunciate more clearly, not afraid to sidetrack to smaller subjects that help explain the broader subject in turn, and I have motivation to impress them. All of this being said, this does not mean I only make eye contact with the one person. I always loved speaking in front of people. Got a rush out of being the center of attention my whole life, so I always stepped up to be the designated speaker in all group projects. People loved that I would always volunteer for that part, so they always wanted me in their group. It helps me thinking that other people, including the audience in front of me, isn't perfect. So why should they expect me to be so? I'm doing my job to my best extent and think myself, deal with it. But things in perspective. What will happen if you fail or don't do insanely good? Nothing. Your life is not in danger. There will be food on your table. You might waste same time, but if you are reasonable prepared, the consequences are small and you can only disappointed yourself. Go first. You set the bar for everyone else, then get to sit and relax. I don't care enough about what other people think. Experience, who've given enough presentations that went well to know I can do it, and who've given enough presentations that went badly to know it is not a disaster. 2 things, preparation and practice. I always have notes prepared about what I'm going to say, and I always practice a full run through before presentations. I understand that despite having notes/having rehearsed presentations, people still get nervous. The best remedy for this is to present to real audiences a bunch of times. For example, in my case, I do MUN Club and have been to a bunch of conferences, and in MUN you have to give impromptu speeches to rooms of /100 people, give or take depending on your committee. Over time, I've gotten used to being in front of an audience, and that's been a huge help for presentation anxiety, and over about 2 years of being in said club, my speeches have become much more fluid and natural. To get more comfortable in front of an audience, present to people a number of times, your family, friends, especially important that you practice presenting to people your age, etc. I just try to remind myself that everyone else in the room would be just as nervous as I am. Realizing that people want you to do well, and meditation to control your mind. Get thrown on the stage at age 5, do years of theater and music performance. Just trip up and embarrass yourself before the presentation. then you'll already have been humiliated, and the presentation itself won't seem so bad. I realized that getting all anxious actually causes me to underperform, so I knocked it on the head. It's pointless being anxious about that stuff. You can only do what you can do. Dealt with high, untreated anxiety for so long I grew numb to it. I cope by barreling forward headlong in such situations, which has ironically gotten me a rep of being very laid back or chill about everything. Works well in the moment at least. Killer is that time leading up to that where I have time to endlessly think about and dread what's coming and slowly mutate into a human-sized ball of frayed nerves. Partially it's that I don't particularly care what anyone thinks, yes, even bosses. Partially it's that I don't try to resist doubts or negative feelings, but instead let them pass, and partially it's because I have a very non-standard understanding of emotions that I got from a TED Talk.